speak
and
about
it's gonna
it, but it's just over.
yeah, okay. I'd argued that together I done it too. Who will do it? What to do? Yeah. You can start.
Thank you all for coming. Today's presser will be addressed by our Secretary for Information and Publicity, Comrade Mchangwa. I will hand you over to Comrade Mchangwa so that he may begin.
Yeah, good afternoon, comrades and friends of the press, the fourth estate of Zimbabwe. I want to just say we always value your work in informing the people about the workings of the Zimbabwean democratic experiment, which started in 1980, courtesy of the victory of Zanu PF over foreign occupiers. The journey is on, and we are happy about it in the aftermath of the elections, which were won by President Mnangagwa in a resounding manner, in a peaceful election, which has remained, calm, tranquil, ever since the day ZEC finished its job. We are now, as a party, focused on governance and carrying out the program, which is a continuation of the National Development Strategy #1 with vigor. And we are happy that we are getting more and more international support because people are happy with the legitimacy which was conferred by our president, by our electorate, which was, of course, declared by the referee ZEC, the only authority which can decide on the outcome of elections under the Constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe. That as it may, we are dismayed by events in the last week since the opening of Parliament, when the opposition boycotted the presidential speech, and thereafter they went on to cause mayhem in Parliament in reaction to events which have nothing to do with Zanu PF as a party, which have nothing to do with the executive of the government of Zimbabwe, which is very distinct from Parliament. We operate under three pillars of state power in Zimbabwe: the executive, which is the presidency, which runs government through cabinet ministers who have since been appointed and are busy discharging their responsibilities. Then we have the judiciary, which is responsible for the adjudication of all disputes related to the functioning of the Zimbabwe Constitution. Then we have the legislature itself, which is accountable, which is responsible or accountable to pass laws which are based on the Constitution of Zimbabwe. The events which have caused a lot of mayhem in Parliament, but also have made the CCC go out to the public, relate to the fact that there was a letter of recall signed by an individual who is known within the CCC, who is a long-standing member of CCC. They have not disputed that he is their member. He signs a letter to the Clerk of Parliament to say that certain of their members have been recalled. Now, the Clerk of Parliament, under the rules, standing rules of Parliament, he has an obligation, a constitutional obligation, to oblige with letters of such a nature according to the tenets of Zimbabwe Parliament. So he received a letter from the CCC, an official letterhead, and there was nothing on his part to say this letter is neither genuine or not genuine. It came from CCC member. who said he holds a certain office and he is responsible for the recall of any members of their party who have fell foul of the party Triple C. Thereupon, he proceeded to act according to the dictates or the tenets of the rules of parliament, that those people can no longer stand in parliament. Then mayhem breaks out among the Triple C people, and they want to shift the blame on the clerk of parliament. He's not the originator of the letter. He's not. He simply received a letter from the opposition saying that those MPs have been recalled. And as things stand, there is enough confusion and mayhem within Triple C, which is attributable to the way that party is being run. In English, there are certain phrases which describe the predicament which Triple C finds itself in. Some say you are hoisted by your own petard. You wanted somebody to be hanged. Then you step on the trap and the news goes around you. But you are the one who has forgotten that, or who had arranged that news to hang another person who becomes the victim. But you become instead the victim. The other English saying is that if you let lawlessness take hold in your party, thinking that it will consume your enemies or your rivals in your party, one day that lawless will turn around and visit you, because you have created a situation of lawlessness in your party. In Shona they say chakai bachinodzokera muridzi wacho. That's how we put it. And this is exactly what is happening in the Triple C. We have a party leader who ascends to power in a high-handed manner, if not a coup d'etat, in Buhera against the venerated leader of the party, Morgan Tsvangirai. He feels insecure because of the manner in which he ascended to the top. Because of his insecurity, he cannot call a conference. But to add to the charade, he decides that the party will not have structures. Because if there are structures, somebody could be a rival. He can't let power be dissipated from him or distributed from him, because he lacks the confidence to trust anybody else who may assume power other than him, even at a subordinate level. And because then one doesn't know who exactly is doing what in that particular part. And because of that, his rivals in the party are involved in conspiring against him, because they feel that they've been hard done by himself. So what am I saying? This is an internal matter of the Triple C. They challenge the legitimacy of their leader because he doesn't do things the way we do them here at Chibuku House in Zanu PF. We hold congresses, we have structures. We built structures during the war. We have a tradition of organization. It's inconceivable in Zanu PF that somebody can write a letter and try to remove members of parliament without the party being vigilant against that errant person. And the trial of Musengezi clearly shows that we have a structure which is accountable. We want to know who is Musengezi to do certain things. And where do we go for redress as Zanu PF? We don't demonstrate in the street against Musengezi. We take him to the courts of law so that he can be tried to check his veracity on which basis he writes a letter about the leadership of our president. This is how we do things in Zanu PF. We make recourse to the Constitution of Zimbabwe and its three pillars which I mentioned earlier on. And in this instance, we made recourse to the judiciary. So if MDC, Triple C have had issues about who was recalling where, their first port of call was been to the courts of law. And that person would then have been disabused of the authority which he wrote that letter upon. But because he is vulnerable to the attack that maybe he himself is in power in a similar manner, he doesn't want to do that, because that would be exactly the defense of the people who are who are rebelling against him. This is a rebellion within CCC, and he's trying to foist a rebellion in CCC to the Speaker or to the President or to Zanu PF. I want to say categorically before you, President Mnangagwa has nothing whatsoever to do with what is going on in CCC. Zanu PF does not relish a divided opposition, because what we want is good business in Parliament with a solid opposition which is justifiable under the Constitution of Zimbabwe. We want that opposition. That's why we go to the elections to contest against it. So we want that opposition in Parliament. So we cannot then be seen to undermine the same opposition which we want to be ruling with. It's not in our interest as a party. I want to reiterate, it's not in our interest to have a disparate opposition which has been voted to have so many MPs in Parliament and given conferred legitimacy by the electorate. Then we want to challenge them. Who are we as Zanu PF to challenge what the electorate has decided are the MPs? So it says, we reiterate, we given a choice, we want a functional opposition which can deliver solid debate as a critique to what is going on with the government. That's what we want. Not what is being purported that we don't want an opposition. It's not true. So the problems we are saying, we would be probably in a position with the CCC to commiserate with their problems now, because it's not good for democracy that there's chaos in a party. But the chaos is homegrown, is homebrewed. It is their own. It is homegrown. It is chewed in their own conduct of a party, which the leader admits is like church. He knows wapusa. In his own words, everybody knows church. He knows wapusa. Everybody in church, wapusa is a preacher. Everybody is a deacon. Everybody is a bishop. Anybody can stand from Norway and say, I'm the authority. And he prides, Chamisa, prides in his party being wapusa. And he has a very egregious reason to justify that his party is wapusa. He says, we want to hide our operations from the state apparatus, because if we do things the way they are done, then the state apparatus may know who we are. So you disorganize your party because you are afraid of the state apparatus, of the state intelligence organization. Now you are disorganized as a party. Then the disorganization comes to eat you. The one which it doesn't eat, before it is consumed the state intelligence service, the disorganization is now consuming you. He was hoping that this wapusa culture will consume Zanu PF, will destroy Zanu PF or the Zanu PF government for lunch. Now at breakfast, wapusa arrangements have consumed him in the morning before we had breakfast. This is what is happening. It's his own disorganization, which has been acknowledged by his own party members, his vice president, Welshman, his vice president or his senior member, BT. They all acknowledge that things are not well with their party. But not only those. We have the intellectuals who love CCC to death, Stephen Chan. We have the advocate of regime change, Piers Pigu, from the Open Society Institute of Southern Africa and Crisis Coalition, that outfit from Brussels which is there to effect regime change in Zimbabwe. They acknowledge, then there are all their professors who are at various universities in South Africa, they acknowledge that Chamisa's undoing, his Achilles heel, is his refusal to run the party the way parties are run all over the world. That is his undoing. It's his problem, this issue. So we want to say, keep your hands away from our speaker. if your house which is not in order, if the speaker is only complying to a letter which in the first instance should not even have reached the parliament, because the MDC CCC is in parliament, they should have had the vigilance to know that among their party membership somebody is doing something wrong. The same vigilance which we had in Zanu PF against Msengezi, and we quickly took him to court to say this man is masquerading. We let him improve his credentials. We asked the MCCC, before they start throwing brickbats at the speaker, they should first put their house in order. That's all we want to state here. This conduct by CCC comes in the wake of the party having tried to abuse SADC. They have an individual. Among many Zambians, it's a big population of probably 15 million, if not more. It's more. One individual called Nevas Mumba, he comes here because he has been nominated by his president, who is chairing SADC, a SADC committee. He has his agenda with his friends who are preachers in CCC, and he has his cheerleaders from outside the region, which is the EU and other countries. Now, he decided to give a verdict about Zimbabwe's elections, which has nothing to do with what's happening on the ground. Fortunately, SADC does not operate like that. It has heads of states, and one of them, South Africa, it has a party, which is a revolution. They send their own representatives, and they observe the elections, and they are happy. Now, this man wants to say, I can tell heads of states, I can instruct heads of state of SADC to follow me. Who are you, Nevas Mumba, to force all these presidents to follow you and give a blank check condemnation of the Zimbabwe elections? They don't do that. Now, because then the CCC decides to dispatch their own delegation to SADC in order to canvass for the support of Nevas Mumba. They send Gladys Kachwayo and Jameson Timber. And they come back with a blind dates in all the SADC states. Nobody gives them a hearing. They come back home empty-handed. So rather than acknowledge that they failed to convince SADC, they then want to create mayhem within the country in order to give the impression, to force SADC to take their position. Now, this is not right. You know, you are a government in waiting, and you are a prospective president. You want to bulldoze your way through sovereign heads of states to say, you take my way or the highway. That's Chamisa. Cyril Ramaphosa. Listen to me, Chamisa, through Nevas Mumba, my spokesperson on elections. If you don't, it's the highway. President Lorenzo of Angola, President Lu of Tanzania, all of them are being told by Chamisa, you follow my way or the highway. Who are you to tell sovereign states which came into a SADC union voluntarily to say you do things my own way? So he draws a blank. Then, like a peeved child, he starts shenanigans within the country in order to create an impression that things are disorderly. And all because he's trying to give a pretext to his outside backers to say things are not well in Zimbabwe. Why do you want to pride yourself in showing that your country should become a victim of disorder, a victim of interference by other countries, the same country which you want to rule? So it clearly shows that his bona fides as a Democrat are not there. We are having a tin pot dictator within the CCC. That's what he is. A tin pot dictator within CCC who is aspiring to make the country behave the same way that his party behaves. But I told you, Zimbabweans are structured people. They will not do things that way. They reject the disorderliness of the CCC. Now, this is playing to the gallery of Brussels, the gallery of Washington, the gallery of London, the gallery of several European capitals. We ask, here is a contrast. EU, you want Chamisa to be the ruler of Zimbabwe. Look, in a democratic world, even in international diplomacy. There's nothing wrong with EU preferring Chamisa. There's absolutely nothing wrong. But what is wrong is to try to force Chamisa upon the people of Zimbabwe against their constitution, against their vote. That is wrong. That's what the EU is trying to do. They interfered brazenly with our elections, and God forgive, if one day they keep pushing the envelope, then Zimbabwe will bring out the whole gamut of shenanigans, including technical equipment, which was availed to the CCC in Zimbabwe in order to announce elections which had nothing to do with the vote of the people in the booth. They wanted to announce their own elections here, to hoodwink the world into thinking Chamisa has won, using the fact that we are in the digital era, where you want to substitute your possession of the medium of digital communications to become the will of the Zimbabwe people. That's not right for a responsible international organization like the EU. If they want Chamisa to win, they have every reason to behave in a manner which is systematic and long-term to make him possibly win. And what do? 20 years the CCC is in charge of the cities as MDC. These are the cities which are major population centers where people produce goods and services for consumption on the global market, on the regional market, on the national market. The CCC, the EU in the 20 years, who have a development bank and a development fund, would have pumped millions into the urban centers of Harare, where MCCC was in charge, to develop urban centers, and these cities would be gleaming, shining cities of CCC competence, in which case a grateful electorate would equally greatly have gone to the both and ticked X on the CCC, because they can see the performance of the city fathers of the CCC who are being supported by the richest trading bloc in the world. The biggest fund in the world for financial investment are within the CCC, within the EU. Why doesn't the EU avail all those funds to CCC to develop towns and make them shining cities like Tokyo, like Paris, like London, where they reside? Then the CCC would enjoy the vote of the Zimbabwe, and people would forget about Zanu PF, because after all, the voter in Zimbabwe is decided in a telephone booth, in a voting booth. Now, CCC does not enjoy that favor from. All they get is money for subversion for 20 years. Huge budgets to say it does not matter, you are in charge of cities. We are not interested in cities, we are interested in the big pie, the country. So you must go to State House. If you are not in State House, we will not give you the support for development assistance for your urban areas. That's what, and the EU would have groomed the CCC to go to the various capitals and financial markets of the EU: Frankfurt, London, Milan, Paris, Washington, Toronto, Sydney. They would have groomed them to comport themselves and convince businessmen to come and invest in the cities which they are running. So all the businessmen in the world would be saying, oh, this opposition is business friendly. But guess who does that when it comes to power? It's President Mnangagwa who says Zimbabwe is open for business. Then he starts attracting business into the country. Then the people who are benefiting from his investments start enjoying that. And when he goes to the elections, they support him because he's changing their life. The EU doesn't want to do that with CCC. Now, this is an organization which we have a whole range of interaction with. The sad thing is that, again, they are being petulant. They are men whom they send to the elections. Is the one, I don't want to mention names, is the one who wants to keep the court boiling about elections which are over, as if it is the only single item which matters between the EU and Zimbabwe, this election. He does not want us to get out of election mode. And, he does all sorts of things, this man. But I want to remind you, the original challenge we had with the EU and our elections was again with the EU, when another gentleman from the EU, and I don't want to mention names, because we aspire for good relations with the EU. We just want to say to them, to the EU, no, you are a mature organization of countries which have been democratic for a very long time. What you could do is what I said, send money for investment into towns which are run by ECCC, so that our people can enjoy a better life without garbage being their pillow in the streets, without potholes, without dirty water, which is a cause for cholera, because cholera means drinking dirty water. The EU could do all these things, and by simply those actions alone, they make ECCC their preferred party, beloved by the electorate, and they can even win the electorate in a resounding victory, which will shame Zanu PF, because the EU has been chaperoning its preferred candidates in a proper manner as statesmen. But the EU is not prepared to do that. It is only prepared to destabilize Zimbabwe through Zanu PF. We can't, in the name of saying we are democratic. That's not right for the EU. We would really want to appeal for sober heads in Brussels to look at their engagement in Zimbabwe in a more open-handed manner, so that we make the country stable, so that we can proceed and develop win-win relations with the economic partnership agreements which we have with the EU. That's what we are appealing for on the part of the EU. We can't have them try to abuse institutions like SADC to serve their interests because they are miffed at the fact that Chamisa did not win the elections. No, that's not the proper thing. We are here to categorically state that Zanu PF has absolutely nothing to do with the disorganization and chaos of the Wapusa party, which is ECCC. We have nothing to do with that. We are too busy with our own business of running this country to try to run another party. Ours is already a big responsibility. We don't want to run another people's party. Our president is equally busy with other things. He respects, he's a lawyer, he's a constitutionalist. He does not interfere with parliament, our president. And definitely our speaker only reacts to letters which have been written from the opposition. They should go back to their own party and sort themselves out as ECCC. That's what we appeal. And boycott, we are told. Guess who was in parliament today? ECCC. As we talk, they've left parliament because there's a committee on the standing rules of parliament, the SROC. It's a committee which decides on all the how to run parliament, including TNS claims, including PECs and other things which the MPs are entitled to do. So now, because that is of personal interest to MPs, they decide to come for that committee, even when they are saying they are boycotting and they are calling for boycotts. You can't have your bed and eat and lie on it on the same time. And I repeat, the gamut of things in parliament are an a la carte menu. You take it as a whole. You can't go as a cafeteria and choose what you want and what you don't want. That's not the provision of the Zimbabwe Constitution. So I want to tell you, the appearance of boycott or the call for boycott, it's a charade. It is all meant for a point which I'm getting to. Because Chamisa lost out in the elections, when everybody else, the 107 MPs and the many city councillors won, he is trying to find the back doorway into parliament, not through the electoral booth, but through some kind of side entrance. So he's holding hostage everybody else in ECCC to say, unless I'm inside that place, then it's all or nothing. That's what he's doing. He is a sore loser who cannot accept that he can be outside of parliament because he lost an election. Now, this kind of behavior is not proper for a man who aspires to be the leader of Zimbabwe. It's not proper. And to compound his conspiratorial attitude to life, he wants talks with the president, direct talks with the president. He wants direct talks, which the president would normally be amenable to. But in the same vein, he wants to teach our president to be a conspirator against BT, against what is the name, Welshman. So he wants his engagement with our president as a whip to ensure that he makes either BT fall by the wayside or Welshman fall by the wayside. So he wants furtive engagement with the president under the darkness without everybody knowing what is going on. In short, the way he runs CCC is the way he wants to engage our president to run affairs of Zimbabwe under the carpet in the guise of darkness. And, instead of in a transparent manner where we are accountable to the Zimbabwean electorate, he wants to cut a deal with Zanu PF behind BT, behind Welshman Nube, behind Charlton Wende, behind everybody. Now, our president is a cadre of the revolution. He is a principled man. He is a constitutionalist. He believes in transparent. He says, no, Chamisa, I cannot become part of your settlement of internal disputes within CCC. I can't help you. Because in this instance, all these people which Chamisa is fighting against with his organization, they are all respectable members of Zimbabwean society. We have worked with the president before. And most of them are not, they are lawyers like the president. How can he, a decent man, countenance the idea that he cuts a deal under the table behind BT in order to appease Chamisa? It doesn't work for President Mnangagwa. He doesn't want to do that. This is the sole point, the other sole point about Chamisa. I told you the first one, he wants to find a side door into parliament. Not through ZEC, not through the electorate. That's why he's causing mayhem within his party. And there will soon be a rebellion by all the MPs who are saying, we won fairly, we have got the mandate of the electorate. Do we subscribe to what you want Chamisa as the leader of the party, or do we subscribe to the electorate? And being decent Zimbabweans, most of these MPs will say, no, what the electorate said matters more, because it's a democratic state. So he's trying to hold on to people who want to comply with the dictates of democracy in order to save his own political skin. This is his problem within the party. But as if that is not enough, he wants to draw in Zanu PF, particularly our leader, into a similar scheme where there's a conspiracy against other MDC contenders, rivals within the party. He cuts a deal behind their back with President Emerson Mnangagwa. Then he shoves them under, he throws them by the wayside. That's what he wants. Now the president is saying, no, that's not the way things are. I am a principled man. I can't do that. Come into the open. Come with your, first own up, get your house in order. You don't use me to settle scores with the Welshman. Don't use me to settle scores with BT. Don't use me to settle scores with Charlton Wende. Don't use me to settle scores with all the other people within that party. So I want it to be understood. Two things: that the problems within the CCC have nothing to do with Zanu PF or the government or the president as the executive or the Speaker of Parliament. The man is not the originator of the letter which was done by CCC. Secondly, CCC should use their own systems to bring to discipline people who write wrong letters to Parliament under their guise. And they should be vigilant to make sure that those letters don't get to Parliament. And if they are somehow lacks in vigilance, because they are not like Zanu PF, a revolutionary party, which fought also vigilance is not in their DNA, it is in our DNA. If they lapse and that later somehow manages to get to the parliament, CCC should quickly run to the courts. First report fraud to ZRPC, to ZRP. They can also be political fraud. They rush, they report, what is his name, Chabangu, the one who wrote it? Chabangu. Yes, you know Stephen Chabangu or someone. They should quickly rush to the police, report him, and immediately go get their lawyers busy so that the courts can settle that issue with them. Now they don't also want to believe in the courts in Zimbabwe. What do they want to believe in? They want to believe that the EU and Europe must come to be their savior. Now we are first respecting sovereign republic. We belong to Africa. We belong to SADC. We cannot accept that the EU or outside organizations be abused to further the interests of CCC. That we will not accept. Then the other point which I want to raise is that the EU, we appeal to them. We have a plethora of engagements with them. There is not one single item which they want to concentrate on, which should disturb the wholesome relationship which we aspire to have with the EU. We want to work well with them, and we want the ambassador here to be conducting his business in a manner befitting of a head of a mission where he is open to engage Zimbabweans across a whole gamut of issues. And we appreciate the EU as a partner, an economic partner. We appreciate the deep capital reserves which they have, which will change our country. We would want to engage them in all those aspects, even including the debt relief, which we engaged with them. We want to work well with them on those issues. But if they want Chamisa as president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, another election is coming in 2028. There is enough time now for 5 years for them to prepare and give as many funds as they can, not for subversion of Zanu PF, because that money will not go to the electorate. So the electorate will not vote for them because it has nothing to gain from money earmarked for subversion. Rather, they should send the money to the CCC city fathers to develop towns, so that when they develop towns, the urban electorate is happy, it votes for CCC. But even the rural electorate will say, the urbanites are enjoying because they have a relationship with the EU. They will then vote CCC. Last thing, the EU needs to send party organization lecturers for party organization 101 to CCC. The way they run their parties in Europe is enough experience, and their lectures, because they practice this at home, they will be very good at imparting the same ethos to the CCC here, so that we don't have a wapusa part. That's what the EU should do, because it looks like organizational theory and practice of political parties is singularly absent from the head of Chamisa. It doesn't exist. That's why he prides in saying my party is wapusa. It is a donga watonga. Anybody does what he wants in that party. No, if you allow that party to behave in the same way, then you reap the rewards, you reap the whirlwind of what is going on in the party. So the EU, among the many funds for subversion which they used to fight against Zanu PF, one of the things which they could do is to go back to election, to party organization or party building 101. Send lecturers to Chamisa. Maybe take him for a refresher course, because his theory is very poor. But maybe 2 months in Europe with the experience of all the political parties in Europe going from capital, will teach him, and going even to the Democratic Party in America, to the Republican Party. Chamisa singularly needs that party building course 101. That's what he needs, so that he can build a party which is cohesive, which can be accountable, which can take disciplinary measures against errant members, which can be vigilant against illegal letters to the parliament, which can arrest before they get to parliament. And if they are remiss in arresting those letters, they should quickly find lawyers who take it to the judge, so that their cause is addressed in a manner which is according to the tenets of the Zimbabwe Constitution. Grandstanding, appealing to the EU to try to force SADC to act in a certain manner against Zanu PF, it won't work, it won't wash. We are revolutionary parties. We have known what imperialism does to Africa: slavery, colonialism, wars of apartheid, wars of racism, massacres on a grand scale. We know that. We have gone through the whole gamut. We are now wiser than before. So we are vigilant. So we don't want them to mistake that we can somehow let our vigilance down. We won't. So these are the things which we appeal to the EU. Come through the door, talk and teach those whom you prefer modern party organization. Give them the capital funds when they win from an electorate to be city administrators. Give them the investments which is needed to make cities prosper. If you do that, they will win the support of the electorate. Then per market, because they want Chamisa to win on the day of the elections, when he has not been doing that job. We have 5 years now. They have a whole 5-year period, EU, kutanga kufida mombe yao pa market. Izo zingavatanga kufida mombe yao. The Chinese, in contrast, what do? They come to Zanu PF, they say we build power plants for you. Suddenly there's no more load shedding. And President Mnangagwa can go and say, look at what the Chinese did for me. I got Wange 7 and 8. They come and build steel plants in Manize. Next, in 2 months' time, we start producing steel in Zimbabwe. He sits on the pedestal. He says, look at what the Chinese can do, because the Chinese, they may prefer Zanu PF, but they just don't prefer the words. They write their checks to make sure that there's infrastructure in Zimbabwe which makes Zanu PF beloved by the people. They say you want market access to China, send all your fruits, grow the whole in Popo Valley with the citrus fruits. Who buy those fruits? You have got lithium. We will dispatch our billionaires. 10 out of 10 billionaires in the world, top in lithium, save 6 are in Zimbabwe from China. So China says, we dispatch our businessmen to go and mine and process lithium in Zimbabwe. We are now sending from Arcadia, we are sending 120,000 tons of lithium concentrate. Very soon Sabi will join. Very soon Bigita will join. Very soon Gwanda will join. Very soon. So the Chinese send their best businessmen to Zimbabwe, billionaires, the top ones in the whole world. They send them to Zimbabwe. Go and invest so that Zanu PF can be the best suitor among the brides. That's what they do. They say, the best bridegroom among the suitors. That's what they clothe the Zanu PF with investment partners across all fields for infrastructure. So Zanu PF is well dressed on the catwalk. The EU does not dress the CCC to properly wear the right clothes at the catwalk. So the judges who are the electorate, they will not vote for CCC because the EU has been remiss in supporting the party which they love through the appropriate means, which are investment, sending business people, and teaching them organization of party building 101. That's very important. And they have the experience at home. They can school that into the CCC so that the chaos and organization does not happen and then try to blame an innocent Zanu PF. Our speaker must be left alone to do his job. Our president is doing his job. He doesn't interfere with the parliament, the legislative, and our judiciary is there to adjudicate if the CCC is not happy. That's all I wanted to say for today. We are ready to entertain any questions.
Are there any questions from the floor?
There being no questions, until next time, thank you so much for listening, to giving us the courtesy. We are innocent, I want to reiterate, of what is going on within CCC. We dearly would wish them that they get organized and become a responsible opposition in parliament so that we all share in the burden of moving Zimbabwe forward. The ball is in Chamisa's court, not in President Mnangagwa's court. But definitely, it's not right for him to try to recruit President Mnangagwa to become a conspirator against his party rivals within the organization of CCC. Our president will be jealously guarding his integrity against being drawn into the brawling which is going on within the CCC. He will not, and he will definitely not, in the dark of the night, sup with Chamisa so that he can outwit Welshman Mube, BT, Charlton Wend, or the others. Our president will not do that. These are all decent Zimbabweans, even if they are the opposition. We will not undermine them to please the ego of a tin pot dictator called Chamisa. We will not do that. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.